Hi everybody, I'm Sarah, the Real Simple Mama, and this is going to be a video about a very specific topic that we are dealing with right now. And I'm hoping that my research and my experience and what I am working on can potentially help you. And the topic is how to introduce a new dog to your backyard chickens. I know, like really specific niche, right? So essentially this video is going to be for anybody who is wanting some suggestions and some tips if you have a new indoor dog and you also have chickens outside. This is not going to be a video for I need a new guardian dog, like a shepherd type dog who is going to be outside and be a protector for my chickens, who's going to like live outside with my chickens. I know some people have, Great Pyrenees or other dogs who basically are 24/7 protectors for your backyard flock. That's not what I'm talking about. Now, some of the material in here may also be beneficial for that situation, but what I'm talking about is essentially for us, what happened is I had two dogs who were indoor dogs. I had a Corgi mix and a Blue Heeler mix, and they were both totally not interested in my chickens. They could all be free ranging and outside together, no big deal. Now, my dogs are indoor animals, but of course they've got to go outside, and you know how it is with life. You just want to let your dogs out and let them just be able to go and do their thing and hang out for a minute and not, eat stuff and not attack chickens and that kind of thing. So I had a really good thing going with my two senior dogs, but unfortunately last October, our Corgi Einstein had to be put down, and we've been looking for, months and thinking about what sort of dog we wanted. And as we got closer to moving into a new home and dealing with building a new chicken coop and making the transition as simple as possible for our kids and everything else, when we were thinking about getting a new dog, we didn't specifically think about a dog who is good with chickens. Honestly, if you're adopting, a lot of fosters and a lot of organizations, they're not going to know how a dog would act in that situation anyway. So I apologize for the tangent, but essentially we got a dog who is young and she is wonderful and she adores my kids and she's just a really great animal, but she's fascinated by my chickens. And by fascinated, I mean she wants to antagonize them and chase them and try to catch them. So I don't want to get rid of my dog. I don't want to give up on her. And of course, I'm not going to get rid of my flock. So I've been working on how to basically train my dog so that she will not obsess over getting the chickens. She won't try to bug them. She won't try to go in there. And while I know it's going to be a long process, it's not like, I'm going to work with her for 2 days and then she's cured or she's fine or whatever. I have thought of some strategies and some suggestions. So she's a Staffordshire Terrier or a mix, but that's what we think she is mostly, and her name is Penny. And so Penny is mostly going to be the example that we're using. And I'm going to talk about the things that we are doing. And I've had the chickens and the dog together in the same house for barely 48 hours. And there's already been significant improvement with the stuff that I'm doing. Now, I've grown up with dogs. I've watched dog training videos, dog training shows. I've talked to dog trainers, but I'm not a professional anything who you would want to hire. So these are just my suggestions. Please don't let this be like the only thing you watch and you think like, hallelujah, I found it, and then you try to sue me if something happens. So these are definitely, just like everything else, all of my videos, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of different options, a whole bunch of different things to think about and sort of a game plan so that you can feel confident that, it is possible that maybe I can get all of my animals to get along to eventually where I feel safe with all of them being out at the same time. And I don't have to go, to constantly take my dog out on a leash forever, every single time they have to go to the bathroom. And my chickens don't have to live in fear and be attacked and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to be talking mostly about what to do for your dog, but you can also check out my YouTube channel because I have different playlists for coop building and predator proofing your chicken coop and your chicken run. So that'll just help make sure that nobody's dog can get in. And of course, you can always put comments down below or questions or suggestions because, like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm not perfect. I'm still learning right along with my dog. But I had my strategies in mind of what I wanted to do. And like I said, in less than 48 hours since the initial, like the very first time Penny saw my chickens, that was, what is today, Monday night. So she first saw the chickens on Saturday night. And she got into the pen and she caught one of my birds. And you can see in some of the Coop Build 2020 videos, I talk about it. She caught one of my chickens, did not hurt her, did not even break the bird's skin. The bird didn't bleed. She's not injured at all other than being like, freaked out. The chicken is fine. So I feel like there was hope for this dog for me to work with her. But of course, we're going against instincts. We're going against whatever past your adopted dog has that we'll never know. But like I said, I did feel confident enough, like, okay, the strategies that I've put in place seem to be working. So this video is going to be a couple of different steps with a demo at the end of just what it kind of looks like with me getting her on a leash closer to the chickens and basically just desensitizing. So these are all my different ideas. Eventually there will be a written article of all of this stuff on realsimplemama.com. So here we go. Look at those faces. So Penny has seen the chickens before when they were at the old rental house, which was basically a big, gigantic, reinforced coop with a very strong frame. So she was actually jumping on the hardware cloth a little bit, and you know, she didn't do any damage except freaking the chickens out. The problem is now that she knows that, hey, these things are funny, and I jump at them and they fly around and squawk and make noise, which makes me want to jump at them more. I don't get the vibe that she wants to attack them and kill them. I get the vibe that she wants to play with them. So we're all going to be standing guard right there, basically just watching to see how she reacts, to correct her, and to see if we need to do any kind of reinforcing with the coop. Hi, Penny Lane. She also was just locked up in her, nope. She was also just locked up in her crate for an hour, and that gives her separation anxiety, so. Okay, so let's take a step back for a minute. Now that you've seen my dog and you've gotten the intro to the video, before we go on and you see me more in action of what I'm doing, I wanted to give you two things to think about. And ideally, you can think about these things before you even really start training your dog, because this will just help streamline the process. It'll help you, anybody else who you're with who's helping train the dog, and it'll definitely make it less confusing for your dog. So the first thing is, I want you to think about what your goal is. What do you want your dog to be able to do or not do? I'm assuming you're watching this video because you don't want your dog to kill your chickens. That's probably a good basic thing. But beyond that, what other things are you thinking about? Do you want your dog to be able to go hang out with your chickens and like lay around where they are? Do you want your dog to just completely ignore your chickens? What do you want? So what is your goal here? My goal, my personal goal, because my chickens, you can see behind me, they have their own dedicated run that's fenced in. So my dog has her part of the yard, and then it's separate from the chicken yard. In that case, I really just want my dog to ignore the chickens. She doesn't need to go in there. She doesn't need to protect them. She doesn't need to hang out with them and be all cuddly with them or anything like that. I want her to just forget that the chickens are there. I want her to not react when my chickens are doing an egg song, or when they're flapping around, or when they're making noise. I want my dog to just completely just disconnect from my chickens. That's my goal. So you really need to know what you want your dog to do or not do before you start training them, because otherwise, you know, if you change your mind halfway through, or you're not being consistent, and that's my second point, then it's just going to take longer because your dog doesn't understand. You have to remember, your dog doesn't want to make you angry. Your dog doesn't want to be disobedient or be evil or anything like that. Dogs don't have those intentions. They just have instincts. And so what you're doing is you're trying to fight that instinct and break that instinct well enough that you can start to have some trust with your animal, and they know over time, I'm always going to do this, I'm never going to do this. So be consistent and know what goal it is that you want your dog to be able to do. The other thing is that you need to, like I was saying, be consistent. And by be consistent, I mean, if you say, I want my dog to ignore my chickens, then you can never let your dog go over there and sniff the chickens. Look, honey, look at the chickens. Oh, wait, no, now I want you to ignore them. Your dog has to have consistent training from you, from anybody else who's going to be living at your house or watching your dog with you. They have to be consistent. Now, that not only does that mean consistent expectations, like you're always allowed to do this or you're never supposed to do this, but it also helps, and I'm bad at this, you'll see in some of these other clips that I'm adding in here, I need to be really, really consistent on the commands that I use. So even though it sounds kind of silly, you and your family need to have a little powwow and say, okay, what vernacular are we going to use? What words are we going to use? For example, I don't want my dog to jump on me. She jumps sometimes when she gets excited. So I can't tell her no, down, get down, and all these other different commands. So the word needs to be down. If I want her to release her ball or her toy so that we could play fetch with her, the command is drop it. And so you need to say, like, these are the terms that we're going to get our dog to learn, and we're only going to use these terms. The term that I use just for a basic don't do what you're doing right now. And you'll see that I normally use it as an unfocus command, like stop fixating on this thing, stop like obsessing on this thing, just to break her concentration. The sound that I use is and I just do it very loud and very quick. And it's just supposed to be, it's not telling her to do anything, it's telling her stop doing what you're doing right now. And it's just a basic, and I got that from Cesar Millan, who did all the dog training videos years ago that my husband and I watched voraciously. And it works really well. So I need to not say no or hey or stop it. I need to just go if I want her to stop doing something. You'll see with some of the other videos that I've got, you know, just random little progress clips in here. You'll see that when I do that, she just kind of relaxes and she's like, oh, okay, never mind. And where she's starting to obsess or like fixate on my chickens or on, you know, the neighbor who we know, and it's like, it's not an intruder, like they're safe or whatever the case may be, you're just breaking that focus, that attention that she's got. It's not telling her to do something, right? It doesn't mean sit. It doesn't mean stay. It doesn't mean come in. It just means stop. But I use that command because it's loud, it's quick. My kids use it now in the house with everything for the dog. So that's been really helpful. So you need to just review. You need to do two different things before you really get into the training of your dog. The first is you need to understand and have everybody else understand, this is what we want the dog to be able to do. This is what we don't want the dog to do ever. So in the other clips, you're going to see how she does over time, just sitting with me, walking around the yard, and then you'll see how she does by the end. Kids are doing wildflower seeds. Now, she is not pulling. Look, there's slack on the leash. Hey. This is Penny. Now, she hasn't had her run today, so she has a little bit more energy. But we are, you know, I walk her to let her do her business first. Let me stand up. I walk her and let her do her business, so we're not worrying about that too. But this is day 3, I guess, day 3.5. And we're doing lots of treats. But remember, you need to, number one, remember that we're fighting instinct. It's not going to happen in just one day. Don't give up on the dog. Don't get rid of your chickens. Don't do anything dramatic if you have time, you know, to work with them. And she's good. She wants to please. Dogs usually want to please. And they're very treat motivated. Come on. Come. Come. So the number one thing is if she gets focused on the chickens, especially if they're making noise, that they're doing their little warning, clucking their warning sounds right now, where they're kind of watching out for what's going on. They're sort of on high alert, although they don't necessarily look like it. The number one thing is to get her focus off. See how right now she's alert? Ears are forward. Now she's not pulling, saying there's slack. So to get her to unfocus from that, I just want her to stop. I don't want her to do a specific command. I just want her to stop. So I just do, and it's loud and it's short, and I do a tug. Now, if I want her to do something, I need to say the command. Sit. Sit. Good sit. Good sit. So see, she's still wanting to get in there. Sit. Penny, sit. Penny, sit. Good sit. Good sit. And if it gets bad, then we just walk away. But I've got her going up to the chicken fence. She was sitting on those steps earlier today. And she gets, and she still wants to get in there. Penny, come. Come on. But we are doing better. And this is only 3 days. So before, she was practically, good sit. Before, she was practically ripping my arm off and like would not unfocus. The word is not coming to me, but where she would just good sit. See, and she just did that on her own. And the leash is slack. So I'm not like pulling on her. I'm not getting my shoulder ripped out of its socket. And now she's like, all right, I'm gonna eat some grass, whatever. I'm gonna sniff at dandelions. You know, the other thing that I did in my situation is she is a fairly high energy dog. Like we did a 2-mile run yesterday that was sort of like a test, and she did great. She took a nap when we got home, but she did great. Since my chicken coop, I have the run, which is their open area for the chickens. And then I have the coop within that. So it's like the chickens have, I guess, 2 different levels.
they're locked in the coop at night, which is all hardware cloth. Like that is completely predator proof. I don't ever worry about anything getting in there, raccoon, a snake, a hawk, anything. So what I decided to do is I'm going to wait in the morning. The chickens are downstairs and ready to be let out of that coop at, I don't know, 7:30. But I left them in there, and I gave Penny some leash free time because we have a nice big yard. We can eat lots of grass, to let her go run around and be crazy. And even if she did get in there, which she didn't try, she went over there once this morning and I told her no. And then she was like, all right, fine. And then she went and did something else. Cause I think now she's kind of learning, like, I'm probably not going to get in there. So I gave her time to go run around in the yard without a leash so she could get zoomy and like get her energy out. But then during the day while my chickens are out, she's going to be on a leash. But this is only day 3 and look, she sees them. They're over there making noise and flapping around and watching her. And I always want to be alert, and I always want them to be alert. Also, as a side note, we know that the pen that we have right now is good for keeping the chickens in, but it's not going to keep anything out. And I may never be able to completely trust her. Now, see, she's interested, but again, the leash is slack. So she had that alert look where she had her ears up and everything, but see, look at her now. She's like, all right, whatever, I don't care. I think honestly she's just fascinated by the chickens. I think if she was intent on killing them, like I've got, a taste for blood or whatever, I think it would be way more difficult or maybe even impossible to train her. But I think for her, she's young and she's just fascinated. The other thing that was interesting, and this is sort of like random, but I thought I would drop it in here. Like I said, we went on a 2-mile run yesterday. I tried to take a video of us like while we're running, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is too Blair Witch. Like, I'm not going to try to do that. But what I wanted to tell you, hey, no, old girl. She's like, oh yeah, sorry. What I wanted to tell you is that, Penny thinks that she wants to catch chickens. But then when we went and did our run, we use a golf course. There's a golf course over across from our neighborhood. And we went to go to the golf course, and she was around geese. And the geese, they're used to people, so they're not afraid. They were like, 5-10 feet away from us. And Penny was afraid. Because the geese, they do their typical, like, show of dominance thing where they're walking up and they've got their chests out and they're making noise. And Penny was like, like afraid. So maybe now she's kind of made that connection of maybe I should be kind of afraid of the chickens. But for her, I don't feel like it's, come on, that's enough. Come on. Good girl. Good girl. I don't feel it's necessarily like I have to get in there and I have to kill it. I think it's, these things make noise and they flap and they look like fun and I want to go play. But then, like I said, when she caught Gracie that day, she could have snapped Gracie's neck and killed her in 2 seconds, and she didn't. In fact, Gracie had no marks on her at all. So either Penny was like, oh, well, I actually caught it. Now what do I do? Or, the feathers felt weird in her mouth and they threw her off. But whatever the case is, she didn't hurt the bird. So that's a really good sign. What is that? So my dog got out by accident. It wasn't part of the plan, but I said, let us wait and see what Squirt does. No. So see, she's a little bit agitated, and we've got a crew working on the house right behind us, and there's a neighborhood dog that's barking, and we just had a delivery, so there's a delivery truck sounds, and it's just all kinds of crazy. But look at this. It's been less than a week, and when she got out, see, my kids are doing it too. When she got out, she went straight over the opposite direction of the chicken yard. The chicken yard's behind me right now. And she went and lay down in the sun and fell asleep for like 20 minutes. Now, I was working out in the yard. I'm keeping an eye on her to make sure she's not doing anything. But she literally just wanted to be where I was. And then she was cool and she went to sleep. When she's inside, she lays right inside against the door where she can see me. And she often would get agitated when she saw me going in the chicken yard. So she got, all hyped up from her sister barking here a second ago. And so she started to come towards, and then she was like, oh yeah, the chickens. But she didn't even make it up to the steps. And I just yelled in a really strong voice, no. And then she stopped and she came back to me with her tail between her legs. And then she laid down in front of me like, I'm sorry, you're the boss. You're the alpha. Oh, sorry, now she's being. So now in no way do I feel like I could leave her outside and I could run in and go to the bathroom, or I could go wander around to the front yard or go do something else. But I do feel like, we're always going to be fighting an instinct, so we're going to have to be careful. But she does not have that mentality of I must kill. I think it was, I want to go in there and play. That looks like fun. So and it's been less than a week. Now, I did have to be really dedicated, and I've been walking her and took her on a 2-mile run the other day. You know, we have to give her opportunities to get her energy out, right? Because that keeps her from being destructive. So she's maybe in her crate during the day, maybe 2 or 3 hours max, and that's not every day. And that's after, you know, we fed her and we let her run around in the yard and stuff. So it's still gonna be a while before I completely feel like I can let her out and, you know, not do anything. And then in my particular situation, like I said, we are going to look into other fencing options just for her and, you know, feral cats or a neighborhood dog or, you know, whatever the case may be. What are they doing? They're tearing stuff up. But I do want to show you that she came out and she was just laying in the sun, and now she's eating grass. Now I'm between her and the chicken coop right now, but I mean, I definitely feel like this is doable. I'm glad I didn't jump the gun. I didn't think this happened one time, so now we, you know, we have to go give her back, and she's just an awful dog and she can never be trained. Like, that is certainly not the case. Look at this good girl. Good girl, Pan. Good girl. Penny. Good stay. Good stay. Tick, 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 tick. Tick, 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 tick. Now, Penny chose to just lay down there in the sun all on her own. She's still... Hey, shh. She still runs to the chickens a little bit, but it's like she runs to the fence. Jeez. But doesn't try to get in or anything. As a final note, we are also upgrading our fence. Those are 8-foot utility fence posts that are solid steel. So they went into the ground a little bit more than 1.5 feet, so they're about 6.5 feet tall. So we still have 5-foot rabbit wire on there, but we are upgrading that. You can see that in the All About Predator Proofing video, and then the upgraded fencing video. But other than teaching her to quit eating grass, we have a rehabbed dog, and she's good to go. Penny, you ready to go inside? Okay.